For today's thrift store challenge, we will be headed over to Hobby Lobby to get some much needed inspiration for the upcoming fall season, and then we are headed over to the thrift store to see what we can come up with for a whole lot less. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Starting this video off talking about wreaths. The last time I was at Hobby Lobby, I noticed that they had a really great selection this year of just neutral fall wreaths, but even with the 40% off, I think we can still do better. This wreath here would still end up being over $40, and while it's beautiful, I think we can kind of find something that's a little bit more affordable but looks really similar. So when you're at the thrift store, it is very hit or miss in terms of wreaths, but you can almost always find a wreath that you can redo. So I found this wreath here for under $2, and then I went to the Dollar Tree and I picked up 9 of these kind of just ivory creamy eucalyptus stems. The first thing I ended up doing was just removing the existing foliage from this grapevine wreath so that way I could add my eucalyptus stems. So I actually just cut these down just a little bit, just enough so that I'd be able to kind of stick them in the grapevine wreath and just kind of arch them around. The look I was going for was much more wispy and not as full as the one from Hobby Lobby, which does affect the overall cost being different. But I think if you still wanted to make it super full like the one from Hobby Lobby, you would be well under that $42 price point. Moving right along into baskets, one of the things that I wasn't necessarily anticipating being as expensive as they are were the baskets at Hobby Lobby. For example, I'm aware that this basket is large in scale, but it was also $50, and I think that you can find amazing, unique, beautiful baskets at the thrift store for well under that price point. For example, I found both of these baskets for under $4 a piece. I really loved the shape of this kind of crescent-shaped basket that looked so similar to something I had seen at Kirkland's for about $70. So then now comes time to maybe decorate the basket at Hobby Lobby. Maybe you want to grab the $40 blanket or, you know, a few decorative pumpkins, and this whole situation can cost well over $100 if you get it at Hobby Lobby. But you can also find decorative pumpkins at the thrift store as well as blankets, brand new with tags. I've shared with you guys so many blankets on this channel that I have found that I still use to this day that I love. But before styling my crescent basket, I just wanted to vacuum out the bottom because I think the previous person must have used this as a planter, and then I just disinfected it really well. And now I'm gonna just try out a couple different things. I saw from Kirkland's they put logs in here, which I think is really appropriate by a fireplace. But I also thought it might look nice to put some dried eucalyptus in here, maybe with a little pumpkin that is decorative. I also tried just changing it around, putting a scarf in there instead of the logs, but I ended up just using this blanket that I picked up from Amazon last year, so I can link that down below for you guys if you're interested, and just this simple little decorative pumpkin. And I think this looks so chic, and the only new piece I truly had to purchase was the crescent basket from the thrift store. However, one thing I definitely recommend picking up from Hobby Lobby this fall season are some of their garlands. They offer really beautiful options, and the problem with the thrift store is even if you find one that you like, you're only usually finding about 1 or 2 of them. And I think for a garland to feel really full and really frame out like your fireplace or a window, you need multiples of the same garland. So I found these at Hobby Lobby, which I was really into. They reminded me so much of these ones from A Floral, but these were only $18 a piece. So I ended up picking 3 of them, and this was kind of the inspiration behind this project. So I wanted to grab also some of these little seedling-like florals that ended up being only $3.60 a piece after the fall discount. To start, I'm just going to remove those kind of empty hooks so I can attach everything with zip ties and floral tape. And I'm just going to attach 2 ends together, so then that way that third garland I'm just going to add to each kind of individual sprig to make it feel just a little bit more full. And I just do so first starting out with a zip tie, and then I cover the zip tie up with a little bit of that floral tape, and that usually holds everything together pretty well as long as everything isn't super weighed down and heavy. I just applied that same technique to those smaller florals and attached those on to the entire garland, and this was the end result. I think I have a somewhat similar look to what I had seen on A Floral, but for a fraction of the overall cost. Moving along into some accent furniture pieces, which are great for back to school, but even at places like Hobby Lobby, they can cost upwards around $40 for just a very simple side table. So when I was at the Goodwill, I came across this side table that looked really similar in shape for just $3. So I decided the best thing to do was just customize it a little bit to look more like the Hobby Lobby table with some black satin spray paint. So I just took it outside, and I'm going to flip the tray piece upside down so that way the inside of the tray still remains white, but the outside is then black. So I just gave it several light coats of this black satin spray paint so that way it was completely covered, but that there was no drip marks running through it. And once this was totally dried, I then sealed it with this matte clear sealer by Rust-Oleum. Another thought I had was to actually add a second shelf to the bottom of this table just to give a little bit more functionality to it, but overall a really simple and straightforward project that anyone could do in an afternoon. Next up, let's talk about some fall centerpiece ideas. So generally a good jumping off point is to pick a vase or a jug that you like. And I know a lot of people get really excited when Hobby Lobby does these like 50% off deals on their home decor accents. But even with that 50% off, it's way more than I'm willing to spend, especially when I know I can find something really similar at the thrift store for just a few bucks. So I found this black pitcher for just $4. And then it came time to find some stems. So you can absolutely go the dried floral route, especially for fall. I think that looks great. But also don't forget to check your thrift stores because you can oftentimes find the same things for much cheaper, especially if it's off season. But because I felt that I had saved quite a bit on my vase or my pitcher, I decided that I was going to invest in these fall stems here from Hobby Lobby. Now each stem was $11, and then again 40% off was about $6 a stem, and I bought 3 of them. So altogether this project was super affordable, but looks like something Pottery Barn would charge a pretty penny for. Next up, let's talk about some wall art options available at Hobby Lobby. And some of the options are really beautiful. I think that they've definitely improved over the years. I think before it was very farmhouse, and I think now they're starting to incorporate a lot of different styles in there. And I think it's definitely a good place to check out, especially if you're decorating kid spaces, because they have a lot of really nice options. But again, another place that has really nice options is the thrift store. And I would say Hobby Lobby is probably one of the #1 stores that I find secondhand at the thrift store. And this is especially true when it comes to artwork. So I think it's because maybe the starting off price point isn't quite as high as Pottery Barn or Pier 1 or Crate and Barrel. So maybe people feel a little bit more okay with outgrowing things because it wasn't super expensive to begin with. But I still recommend checking your thrift store. I was able to find both of these art pieces for my son's room for under $10 for both of them. And just a reminder, anytime you have something that has 2 hooks on either side for something to be hung, make sure you're grabbing your painter's tape, mark on that painter's tape where you need to put your nails in so that way you can center the tape, make sure everything is exactly where you want it so you don't end up putting unnecessary holes in your wall. My son was so excited with these additions to his space, and I think that that's the major takeaway here is that you don't have to pay retail. You can find exactly what you're looking for at the thrift store if you just do a little bit of digging. And last but certainly not least are some decorative accents that you can add to your space. So Hobby Lobby definitely has some options that are going to be way more affordable than places like Pottery Barn, but not quite as affordable as the thrift store. So I always seem to find decorative knickknacks, and it's honestly a curse because then you end up with so much kind of like clutter in your space. So you really have to be selective about the things that you're purchasing. I think a kind of really important thing to keep in mind is just kind of like the color palette that's going on in that space. So for my son's room, again, it's this kind of like navy gray color with a lot of black metal iron. So I decided to kind of stick with that color palette while I'm at the thrift store. Those are the kinds of things that I'm looking for that kind of fit in. So everything just looks really cohesive when I put it up on his new bookshelf. I spent under $10 for all of these decorative accessories. And I think that had I gone to Hobby Lobby, I would have spent close to $100. But as you guys know, like I mentioned, I find a lot of decorative accessories that I think are beautiful, but I just don't have the space for it. So I found this really pretty tray that was kind of mixed metal, which I think is so trendy right now. And I had previously found this copper pitcher, and now I don't have a use for these pieces because the metals I have in my space are kind of this brassy gold and black. So I decided that I was going to gift this to one of my subscribers. So just comment down below that you're interested in this combination and I will gladly send it off to you. And that about wraps it up for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know down in the comments what project or which find was your favorite, and I will see you guys next time. Bye for now.